Let's see what happens now. Hello everyone. We're going to try and see if we can get a stream that cooperates. All right, frames per second look good. Let's hope they maintain. In the meantime, I throw this on the screen. Alrighty. And I will jump to this. Let's see. How are we doing? Still good, all right? It's a good sign. Hey guys, can you hear me? Oh, good sound, thank you. See, you know the system. Tell me right off the bat what's going on. Today's topic is going to be about coral prices. And I thought that was a pretty good topic because so many people out there, buy corals. One of the problems for me is that I don't like paying top dollar for corals. And while there's others out there that do, I wanted to kind of get your feedback on what you felt was fair versus what was overpriced, or what you might think is a worthwhile investment. And, so let's kind of get into that for a few minutes here. I'm going to keep double checking this thing. So frames per second is staying at 25. That's basically what we wanted. In the past, it was way worse. Okay, Reef Community Worldwide says the prices in the UK are a lot cheaper than the US, so I am packing my bags and I'm heading your way. We have some crazy pricing here. Some things are very affordable. Matter of fact, when I was at that event last weekend, and that video is already in my editor, I just kind of need to narrate over it and then upload it. Maybe I'll get that done tonight. I saw frags that were $10 and $15. Totally affordable. I also saw someone selling a single zoanthid polyp on a frag plug for $25. And that kind of resonated with me a little bit. I was kind of like mulling it over thinking, what does that mean? $25 for a frag of a zoanthid. And what had occurred to me was that most people would probably say, okay, 25 bucks, I can afford that. But if that frag was something larger, and it was 125, you'd probably walk away from it. So was the person selling charging a fair price? Was it overpriced? When you think about it, one single polyp of a zoanthid for $25, that's $25 a polyp. That's a lot of money. Especially from a guy from so long ago who didn't even know what a zoanthid was standing in the club president's house, and I said, what is that? It's really pretty. And he told me, those are zoas, or zoos, he'd call them back then. And I said, oh, they're really nice. And he says, do you want some? And I was like, okay. And he reached into his tank, ripped off a few, put them in a Ziploc bag, and said, here. And I was just like, what do I do with it? He says, you glue them to a rock, and they grow. I was like, all right. And that was my indoctrination to getting zoas, and I got them for free. And there was probably 9 or 10. And those zoas turned into a huge colony. And I took pictures, of course, and shared them on the forums. And people were like, oh my God, they're so beautiful. And then one day a photographer came over and he said, I'm going to name these mean greens. And that's where they got their name. And I had them for a very long time. Sadly, I have no mean greens this day. I wish I did. I kind of keep my eyes open to see what I stumble across. I'd like to get some more. So let me take a look at some of your comments already. Okay, Dion says that scolies are overpriced at 200 bucks. Scolies are one of those corals that, scolemia, that has kind of retained its price structure or value over the years. There was I think a 6-month period when they were the coral du jour. They were the one to get, because it seems like every summer some coral becomes that hot coral everyone wants. For a couple of years, everyone was collecting acans. Of course, for a few years, everyone was collecting zoas or palithoas, or zoos and pallies. And of course, Acropora has its own period of. Right now, the Walt Disney coral that so many people like is it's an Acropora tenuis. And tenuis has been around forever. And it's just that particular coloration has grabbed everyone's attention. And I've got a couple little tiny bits of it in my in my reef right now. Maybe in a year it'll be amazing. I have no idea. For now, it's alive. I'm doing a good job. Yeah, that one right there is getting a lot of money right now. Chalices went for a couple of years, and they were super high expensive. And I remember this was once at a frag swap years ago, and a guy showed up with a tank, and it was filled with frag rack, and there was basically 2 rows of frags. That was it. Huge tank, all this water, 2 rows of frags. And I think every frag was like $175 for this chalice. And I just thought, wow, you set up a huge tank. And he says, I just have to sell a few. And yeah, at that price, you just have to sell a few and you walk away with some money in your pocket. Not a bad deal, huh? But now trying to sell some chalices won't be as easy, or you won't get as much money for. So that's why we're talking about pricing, because I kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were. I like talking to the live stream channel. Eric Grafton says, are you sticking with Saturdays? I would love to stick with Saturdays as long as the stream works. And it worked fine last week. I've done nothing different other than I did a test because I was going to get the developer of the software to work with me and figure out what the heck is going on. And it just worked. So, you know, that's bad. It's like taking your car to the mechanic and you say it's making this sound and he says, I don't hear anything. And of course it will make a sound when you're with the mechanic. But he says it's working fine. And it was. So my thought is if we really collapse on Saturdays, then it must be my internet provider or it's YouTube receiving the signal. I kind of blame the internet provider. And if it's really that, you know, if the channel going to the internet is clogged up, it could be there's other gamers in this area that are live streaming their video games and destroying all the bandwidth. I mean, that's I have no idea. I don't know how that part works. I just pay my bill each month and expect it to work. So if we can stay to this, I would prefer that. For the next few Saturdays coming up in April, I'm going to be very busy. So I might have to bump the live stream to a different day and time because it'll be weekend. You know, there won't be one for like a month. So that's no good. Okay, so when you walk into a fish store, how do you handle buying a coral? For me, I walk in the door and I say, you know, how much is that one? And they tell me the price and I just nod. Okay. And many years ago, I walked into a fish store not too far from me and I said, how much is that coral? And he said $45 and it was a colony. It was about this big, you know, decent sized. And I was like, okay. And then he looked at me and he said, 35. And then I'm in my head thinking, did he just lower the price while he's talking to me? And then he looked at me like 35. I'm just thinking, I'm in a store to purchase something. I'm not in a pawn shop. And it was really weird. I didn't understand what was happening. He was lowering his own price and gauging my reaction to decide if he should charge less and less and less. And you know, I kind of was confused because, you know, I'm used to walking into any other store on the planet. There's a price tag on the item. You either buy it or you don't. But for some reason, some people live for the haggle and they enjoy going in and debating the pricing. And I can't stand it. You know, price is the price. So what can I say? That's just how I feel about it. Okay. I'm sorry, did I say that right? Scott1 said regions decided a lot. He used to live in California and stuff was cheaper, and now that he lives in Texas, everything's expensive. It also can be that certain corals have flooded that particular market, and now you can't give the stuff away. For example, years ago, my orange Monopora was really popular, and people loved getting frags. And then everyone had one, and no one wanted it, and they really were hard to unload at that point. So that could be the case. Plus, California has so many hobbyists and so many fish stores. Now, let's delve into the dark side of the web for a second. If you are purchasing corals and you live near a wholesaler, are you trying to circumvent the fish store and go straight to the wholesaler? And do you feel that that is ethical? Or do you like, I don't really care. It's, it's my money. I'm going to spend it where I want to spend it. I'm kind of curious on that one too, because I have access to wholesalers, because I run a business. But at the same time, that's not what I do. And I've had wholesalers approach me and say, Mark, what do you want to buy? And I don't mean, like for your tank, they want me to buy corals and inverts and fish, and they want me to sell them through my website. But I would, of course, have access to getting some really nice corals at the same time. And I got to tell you, I'm going to slide off topic while you're answering my questions here. Last weekend, when I was in Indianapolis, I was at this fish store called, dang it, Atomic Aquatics. I'm sure that's wrong. Anyway, if you watch that, I'm going to delete this later live stream. I told the story about that store and how he caught a fish in like a second. It was amazing. But what I want to get into, and what you'll hear in the narration of the video coming out next, is going to be about the beautiful corals that he was unpacking one after another after another. That is not the norm. When fish stores get in corals, they get in a few choice pieces. They're going to get top dollar, and they're going to get a lot of bread and butter corals, which are the ones that sell quickly and are affordable and most people can buy. This guy unpacked every single diamond, ruby, diamond, sapphire. I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen anything like it, where every single thing that came out of the box was unbelievably gorgeous. And I thought, how does he have such a connection or such a hookup? But, I asked, how the hell did you do this? And he said, we have been preparing for this frag swap for 6 months, and we've been growing these out. Man, they were gorgeous. And you're going to see some of those corals in the video, and I think you'll be impressed. I mean, in person, they were phenomenal. And everything was healthy. Everything was vivid. It's funny, he has 3 or 4 tanks in a row, like connected, L-shaped. And there was Kessel lights all in blue, and then there was Kessel lights over here. And Kessels, you just turn the knob and change the color. And so he'd unpack this fantastic coral, and I'd see it under 10K and knew it was a winner. But he'd walk all the way over to the blue tank and hold it under the blue light to look at it and say, ooh, that's nice. When all he had to do was twist the knob over the tank he was standing in front of, and could have just done it on the spot. But he kept walking back and forth, which was kind of, in my head, it was amusing. Jeremy, if you're watching this, I'm not making fun of you. I thought it was kind of funny. But yeah, unbelievable corals. And there is a thing I've heard, I can't prove it. I mean, it's just sort of one of those stories you're told because you talk to fish store owners and you talk to wholesalers. And when they bring in a new crate of corals from some part of the world, there are people that are called, I think they're called shoppers. And their job is to pull out some choice pieces for their customers, their clientele, which is, of course, the fish stores across the nation. And, so like, let's say you unpack 15 corals, they're going to pull out like the hot 3. That's going to go to fish store 1, 2, 3. And these 2 are going to go to fish store ABC. And you're just like, oh my God. I remember I was standing in this wholesaler watching him do it. And he pulled out this beautiful hyacinthus, which is a acropora species that tables. It tends to, for example, could be hot pink with bright blue tips all along the perimeter, the front of the coral. And I'm like, oh my God, I'd love to have that coral. And the shopper said, this will die, this will die, this will die. And I was like, wow, that's kind of negative. And he just said they just don't do well. I'm like, then why are you getting them? And, setting them aside to sell to this fish store if you know they're not going to make it. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy, this hobby. Some people in the know understand, basic rules of what will live, what will die. But then again, maybe we shouldn't collect what will die. And maybe that's just that guy's opinion. Because I've seen people that grow that coral in their reef tank, and it's gorgeous. But are they, exceptional hobbyists? Are they crazy lucky? Or is it just those people knew how to set up the tank right? All right, so let me get to your answers. Let's see. Scrolling, hang on. Okay, Diacanthus Reef says, I think you'll have better luck bargaining on a coral that isn't doing well or is in overabundance. And I've heard that. I know some people that will intentionally go look for the browned out corals. Browned out SPS is what I'm talking. I tend to talk about SPS a lot because that's my favorite. But they find corals that are browned out, not doing great, and they offer a low price to the store to get it out of the store because they know it'll color up in their own tank. And I kind of understand that mindset. Number one, you're probably going to score a deal, and number two, you can watch it transform before your very eyes into something gorgeous. And I remember I was in a greenhouse somewhere in the Ohio area, somewhere near Cincinnati. I can't remember. We drove for a long time. We got to this greenhouse, and inside the greenhouse were all the trays of corals growing, and all you had was sunlight. There was no blue lights to help cheat and make the corals look better than they are. And I'm looking through all those little frag plugs, and my buddy Ed was there. And I said, you should get this one right here. And I just pointed to this one little frag. And he looked at it and goes, are you sure? I was like, that is going to be amazing one day. And so he's like, all right. So he bought it. And I don't know what it cost. It might have been 10 bucks, 15, 35. I don't even know. I made him buy it. And he put it in his reef tank, and he said the next day under his normal lighting, he says, oh my God, how did you pick that out of that trough? I was like, I just knew that was going to be a good one. I'm good at picking out potentially good corals in the future. By the way, I posted a picture of a coral that I bought at the DFW Mass Frag Swap. It was a weird one, looked pretty pale white with like brown polyps, and everyone's like, oh my God, it's going to die, it's going to die. And I said, no, it looks interesting. And it's been in my tank now for, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks. And in my blog, which is in the video description. Hopefully it's clickable. If it's not, it'll be clickable later. But I put a link to that. If you just go to melevsreef.com and click blog, it's the very first blog. There's a bunch of pictures. And the last 2 pictures are that coral that is changing and looking prettier every day. So check it out if you like. Lots of eye candy in this week's blog. All right. Let's see what's going on here. I see people talking. Oh, that's interesting. Vicky says, in the UK, the price is the price. Now, someone else, of course, is disputing this. But point is, there's no negotiation usually. And that's kind of how I would expect it to be. When I go to a tire store and they say tires are $107 each, plus installation, plus road hazard warranty, I don't say, well, can I have them for $91 each? I mean, I can say it, but they're going to look at me like I'm insane, and they're going to say, they're 107, how many are you buying today, or get out of line. And, it's the same with a haircut, or any place I go to, there's a price. Here's a quick story that happened to me years ago. I had run a booth at an event in California, and a guy walked up, and he said, how much are your RODI systems? And he was kind of aggressive about it. And I told him the price. And he says, okay, fine, I'm going to go see what the other people are charging for theirs. And I just smiled at him and said, that's fine. I said, no one else is selling RODI systems at this event. I'm the only one. That's why I brought a booth, because I sell them. And so I kind of cornered the market. And he just kind of turned his nose up at me and walked away. I was like, okay, whatever. And he came back by later, and he was just kind of like, yeah, no one else is selling them. So what kind of a deal are you going to give me? And I said, this is the price. I shipped them here from Texas, and now's your chance to buy one. And at the end of the day, he still hadn't bought one. But he decided he wanted some RODI filters, which is kind of weird, right? I mean, don't you need the system? Whatever. I had already boxed up my booth. I put everything in boxes, because I have to ship it back to Texas. And I'd already taped them shut. And the guy said, oh, I need a set of filters. I said, okay. So I got out my box knife, and I cut open the box, and I pulled out the filters, and I told him it was $55. And he handed me a 20 and just looked at me. And so I've got this 20 sitting in my hand. I'm like, okay. And then he puts another 10 on there. I said, keep going. And he put a 5 on there. I said, you're getting closer. He's like, aren't you going to give me a deal? I was like, no, this is the price. And I can take these back to Texas and sell them for their normal price. I actually did you a favor cutting open the box to take them out because you said you needed them. So he gave me the rest of my money begrudgingly and walked away. And I guess he was unhappy. But I don't know. I'm weird. I set a price and I stick to it. What can I say? It's just, I don't know. That's what I do. Let's see. Scott Wan says, I love going to all the shops. I like buying everywhere. I love to spread the money around to the hobby. And you know, I do the same thing. On this last trip, I went to 3 different fish stores and I bought test kits in each one. So I actually supported each store with a small purchase. Plus I needed those test kits for the videos for Reef Trace. Speaking of Reef Trace, if you didn't know, let me see if I can get this thing to appear on your screen. Reef Trace is available for Android, finally. Everyone was like, when is it coming out? It's out, it's out, it's out. And it's available to you Android users. It already has been out for the Apple users. It's $3.99 right now, heck of a deal. And you can post all your water parameters. You can share those with others through Instagram or through Facebook or through text, via email, however you want to share them. You can look at the Lfs Locator to find what stores are near you within a 45-mile perimeter. There is the Critter ID section, which is built into, you know, it's joined with melevsreef, and so you can explore the critters and maybe identify something that's in your tank or discover something you'd like to buy to put in your tank. You know, it's a visual map to explore. You know, Critter ID is to identify stuff. It's not a selling section of the site. There's also news, and there is also the plaza where things are sold across the nation. So if you haven't got Reef Trace yet, you should. Now, I already posted my results on Instagram today. I am ahead of schedule. I'm so proud of myself. Part of the reason why I have to do that is because I have to build a sump today, and I've got to get that on my table and start gluing and not be distracted by anything else. So all my water was tested except for nitrate. They're up. Who cares? Phosphates are up. So I'm going to dose Phosphate RX tonight and get those knocked back down again. It's been a while since I've dosed it, probably a couple of months. And phosphates are at 0.5 right now. I'm sure all of you are like, oh my God. And yet, when you look at the pictures of the corals I took just 2 days ago, they look beautiful. So, okay, I want to transition for a second off this topic about buying corals and talk about water parameters for just a second. Years ago, all of us hobbyists were trying to get low phosphate, low nitrate. That was our goal. And, you know, we were calling it, I want to get 0. But now people have 0 nitrate and 0 phosphate, and their tanks aren't doing so well. So we actually are seeing a resurgence of people trying to add things to their tank. It's been going on for the last couple of years. It's been actually kind of weird watching it because I'm like, you need nitrate. I've got a tank full of it. Here, I'll just give you a bottle of my water. But people are adding nitrate to the water. People are adding phosphate to the water. They're adding tree stump remover to increase parameters. I'm thinking just add more fish. Feed more fish. Your numbers will become more polluted. It's not impossible to do. It's actually kind of easy. It's sort of like walking through your house a lot and not vacuuming. But, yeah, so corals don't thrive in 0 nitrate, 0 phosphate. They need a little bit of each. Just a little bit. Like 3 ppm of nitrate and 0.03 ppm phosphate. Those are ideal numbers, not 0 and 0. Okay, let's come back to this. So if you are not posting results on Instagram, please do. I put this little link on the bottom of the screen way too long. You want to post your parameters, you can write them on a piece of paper and take a picture and then share that to your Instagram. Make sure it's public so I can see it. And then, you know, hashtag water testing, hashtag post your results, and then at melevsreef. That'd be great so I can see it. I saw someone post their numbers recently, and that was nice. We've had quite a bit of participation on Instagram. It's been kind of fun. Reef Trace just makes it easier to share it. I can take a quick screenshot of my numbers, and then I can just send it to Instagram. And I've had one person, he's asked me in the last 2 videos in a row, how can he reach me? So I am over on Facebook, and it's real easy, facebook.com/melevsreef. And on there I share things that have to do with the ocean, and things that have to do with reef tanks, and things that have to do with animals. So find me there. You can send me a message there if you need to. You can definitely reply on the posts. I read everything. I'm always reading the comments. So don't feel like you're being ignored. Matter of fact, I had a guy that was posting some really inappropriate stuff on my YouTube yesterday. And when I went to look for it, it was gone. I don't know where it is. But I see it all. Let's see. Okay. If a LFS is growing the corals in-house, they set up a huge tank, they cut up some corals, they make all these frag plugs and they're growing them, and they set the price, does that bother you? Do you feel like for some reason that that is taking advantage of you? Or do you feel that that is appropriate? For me, I think it's fine. Matter of fact, there's obviously a lot of money in selling corals, and it's a little ironic that I don't, but I just can't stand it. I like selling dry goods. I like building stuff out of acrylic, and I like putting Phosphator X in a box and shipping it to you. Those are the things I like to do. Buying a coral online, you, the customer, super easy. You do add to cart, you pay whatever it costs you, and then you wait, and it's supposed to show up, and you're supposed to be happy. It sounds so simple. For the guy on the other end, he's got to take pictures of the coral. He's got to edit the picture so it looks good. He's got to resize it to fit the website. He's got to upload it to the website. He's got to assign it an ID and a price, because if you buy lot number 7231 and then you don't get that exact item, you're going to complain. And as these things sell, they have to know which one was what. Then they have to bag it up, they have to box it up, they have to protect it from the elements, which could be cold for winter, hot for summer. It could be they're shipping from a mild place, let's say sunny California, and it's going to Michigan, which is icy, and it's got to go across the nation overnight. It has to arrive on time. FedEx cannot take it to the wrong address or hold it overnight like an extra day or over the weekend, which is even worse. There's so much involved in getting that coral from their facility to your door to keep you happy. And that is something that, man, I do not want to get involved in any of that. And so when I sold all those Fungia frags at our frag swap, that was awesome. I showed up with a bucket of frags and I just said, pick what you want, it's 20 bucks. And that was the end of it. And I was really happy to sell all those. It was just a nice change of pace. But I saw all these guys that had tanks, heaters, pumps, lights, rigs, lighting, power cords, all this stuff set up. They had, ways to bag the stuff up or put them in little deli cups with lids. There was some that had urine cups, the specimen cups. What else? I mean, I see all these different methods. One place last weekend, they had the heat sealer, which I bought a heat sealer. And I've used it in the past when people came to my house to get a coral for my tank, and I'd put it in the bag and I would melt the bag in like 3 seconds flat, and then here you go. And I liked that. That's super awesome. It's easier than a bag with a knot or a bag with a rubber band. But to try and get all that stuff into, it kind of explains why it costs as much as it costs for frags. But there is definitely good money in making it. But what is the most you've ever spent on a coral? And I'm going to give you guys, like 60 seconds or so to post your number. You could put the name of the, the type of coral it was and the price. That'd be awesome. Because I am going to then tell you what I paid for the most expensive coral I ever bought. All right. Give me a second here. Bare Necessities says he has a LFS near him, local fish store, that sells frags that they make themselves, and they sell them for pretty cheap. $5 each, or 3 for $12. That's awesome. And, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that would be phenomenal. Matter of fact, you could really stock up. One person told me years ago, he was selling all his frags for around $45 a piece at a frag swap, and I thought that was a lot of money. And this was a long time ago. Because you used to get a colony for $45. $35 to $45 was kind of a normal price. Remember the fish store, that shaped coral, and he said 40, and then he said 35, and then he said 30, and I was like, what is he doing? But then if you, the reason I mentioned him, he said, well, if you pay a lot of money for a frag, let's say 45 bucks, you're going to care more about if it lives or dies versus, let me turn this thing off. It's sitting on the screen way too long. Go away. How about this? There we go. Sorry. He said if you have a $45 frag, you're going to care more about it than you are a $5 frag. I don't really agree with that. I kind of feel like you're forcing the market to pay top dollar for frags. But that was his stance. I just disagreed with it. I care about corals people give me. They say, here, Mark, here's a coral for your tank. And I feel guilty if it doesn't make it, or I feel guilty if it gets cooked by another coral, you know, or it just they sting each other. I have a frag that I brought home from Seattle, and I put it in a prime spot. And yesterday I'm looking at my tank, I'm looking really, really close, and there was a frag plug with a nub on the top, and I'm like, where's the frag? And it was lying on the rock. So today I've got to grab some glue and stand it back up. I'm going to assume Spock just kind of swatted it with her tail for whatever reason, because frags don't just jump off of frag plugs. They're glued on. So I got to fix that. All right, I'm seeing some prices. And Seahorse Whisperer is here. Hello. She said some people have super awesome rare blah 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 corals. That's the name of the coral, by the way. That aren't worth what they were back then. That's true. I mean, that's when you're buying coral du jour, you're getting the coral of the season. And it's going to be top dollar. But then as everyone gets it, the price comes way down. So some of the answers I've gotten, oh man, people are answering in different denominations too. I have no idea how much that is. How much is 390 pounds in US dollars? Can someone tell me that, please? That was a Lfs Locator. Here's someone that paid $75 for a colony rock of zoas. $65 for frog spawn 10 years ago. I bet you have hundreds of frog spawn now. Someone else paid $50 for frog spawn. Someone else paid $60. Didn't say what it was for. All right. One person paid $65 for a trachea and felt like that was a lot of money. Ooh, Alveopora. I want to get another one. I love that coral. It's a beautiful LPS coral. If you haven't looked at it, look on my Critter ID. It's got the neatest shape of each polyp. You definitely want to check that one out. Alveopora it's in the Goniopora family, but it's not a Goni. And it likes mild flow, I agree. If you have decent water quality, it'll do quite well. Who mentioned Alveopora? How did I miss that? All right, well, sorry. I have bought some really gorgeous hot pink Goniopora as well. And it was like half a buck. You know, I mean, half a dollar size, you know, really small. And I watched it just melt. You know, it just didn't do well. And it was kind of, and I probably paid the same as Joel. I paid 65 bucks for it as well. Maybe 75, I don't know. It seemed like quite a bit. All right, so you guys have been all telling me your prices. The most I've ever spent on a coral, and I think that guy that used his pounds price might have beat my price. I'm not positive. I paid $300 for a rainbow Lfs Locator that the fish store had, and it was just sitting there. It was that big around. I mean, like a Danish, right? And it was gorgeous. And I was like, I don't care what that costs. Bag it up. I'm taking it home. And then he told me $300 plus tax, and I kind of was like, ouch, as I handed my credit card to him. But I had to have it. And it was really pretty, and I had it for 16 months, 18 months. And then it just kind of went downhill and would not stop. I have no idea why it died. It was doing so good for so long, but something went wrong and it went downhill. That was the most expensive coral I've ever purchased. And I saved the skeleton for a long time, but I think I finally, I don't know. I might have crushed it up to throw it in the calcium reactor to get a little bit of money back out of the skeleton. Who got an elegance for $35? That's a good deal. Sorry, something's in my throat today. Oh, wait, I saw someone beat my price. Someone paid $1,300 for endophilia? I don't even know what that is. I am definitely going to be Googling that after we're done with this stream. Endophilia. Matter of fact, I'm going to take a screenshot of that so I can look it up later. John M., you've got more money than I do, that's for sure. Well, you used to have more money than I did, and you gave it all to Tidal Gardens. Tidal Gardens does some beautiful photography. If you're not following his channel, you should. And yes, he sells corals. But wow, does he do some phenomenal footage and great macro photography. Let's see. Apparently 390 pounds is like $450. Yeah, that's still more than I spent. But the guy that spent $1,200, I think he beat all of us. You know, you win, sir. You win the internet for the day. All right. I'd love to get a gold hammer coral as well. I saw someone mention the wall hammer. That'd be a nice one to have, but yeah, there's only so much room in my tank. I'm actually trying to keep collecting SPS at this point, and I'm putting them in spots. And after seeing Dwayne's tank, which is looking fantastic, and I came home to see mine. Mine looks like nothing in comparison. Everything's small and tiny. Remember, he helped me rip out a 4-foot section of my reef that was 2 giant colonies. We just lifted it out as one piece. And so now I have stuff, this big, and it's like, it's all right, but it's not like Dwayne's tank. Dwayne's tank was looking gorgeous. So good news is my water parameters are good, and my corals are doing well. I would just wish they were bigger. It's Texas. Everything in Texas is bigger. What the heck's going on here? So, all right, that's pretty much it for today's live stream. I just wanted to get into the discussion of coral pricing with you. I think in a way it's really an opinion-based thing. I feel like if stuff's just too expensive for me to afford it, I just say okay, and I just nod and I walk away. But if it's affordable, I feel more of us can get it. I do understand that we are putting a price on something that is subjective, and capitalism itself lets the market dictate the pricing. And if people are willing to pay top dollar for a single polyp, they're going to. There's always someone out there with money to burn, that can afford that kind of stuff. And then there's the rest of us with a budget, and we want to have things, and we might save up to get things, but sometimes it's still out of our reach, and that's the case. It makes sense. Guys, I hope you have a great weekend. I'm going to go build this sump so I can make a happy customer tomorrow. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, whenever it's done. But and I'm glad the stream worked. That was really nice. So I hope that it'll continue to work fine. I had my phone set up on a tripod next to me in case this totally failed, because at least we know if I just jump onto LTE, Verizon gives us enough signal for a live stream that way. We just don't have the ability to drop in slides or anything, which I didn't do much. I was kind of expecting this to totally crash and burn. I was going to jump to the phone next. So I was happy the stream worked. And make sure you do your water testing today. If today's water change day, then do your water change today. Don't make excuses. Don't let your tank go downhill. Keep your tanks healthy. And I'll see you guys online. Bye, guys.